Knowing when and how to do the adjustment for smoke detectors when you have beams is an important skill. Let's take 2 minutes to talk about it. So, if your beam depth is less than 10% of the ceiling height, you actually get to use full spacing throughout the entirety of that ceiling. If your beam depth is 10% of the ceiling height or greater, and your beam spacing from one beam to the next is equal to or greater than 40%, you actually have to put all of your smoke detectors in the beam pockets, which is going to add to more smoke detectors. So if our ceiling is, let's say, 10 feet, 120 inches, and our beam depth is only 11 inches, we actually don't have to use any adjustment. We can use full spacing. If it is less than that 10%, again, flat ceiling spacing. Your smoke detectors can go either on the bottom of the beams or in the beam pockets. All that matters is that each of your smoke detectors are 30 feet away from the last, and your first row is within 15 feet off the sidewall. Now, if your beam depth is equal to or greater than 10% of the ceiling height and less than 40% from one beam to the next, there's actually a few things we have to take into account here. So our 10-foot high ceiling is 120 inches. The beam depth it happens to be 12 inches. So we are equal to or greater than 10%. So we do take a look at the spacing from one beam to the next. If we are equal to or greater than 10% of the ceiling height, but less than 40% from one beam to the next, we can use flat ceiling spacing parallel to the beams. We make a reduction from one beam to the next beam of 50% of the full spacing, and the smoke detectors can either go on the bottom of the beams or within the beam pocket. It's wherever the spacing falls. Equal to or greater than 10% and equal to or greater than 40%, well, things get a little bit different here. So our 10-foot high ceiling, 120 inches, we have 12-inch beams, and they are spaced 48 inches apart from each other. We meet all the parameters here, so when this is the case, everything goes in the beam pockets. So each smoke detector will go in the beam pockets, which is going to add to much more smoke detection.